welcome all of you to our hearing on human rights in Vietnam. And I want to thank you for joining us at this very important hearing. And before I introduce all the witnesses, I do want to say a very special thanks to An Cao, who was a good friend, the first Vietnamese American ever to be elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, and a man who spoke out bravely and repeatedly for human rights all over the world, but with a particular emphasis and with a great deal of knowledge in depth on Vietnam. So, An, welcome back to the Congress, and it's great to see you again. The Vietnamese government continues to be an egregious violator of a broad array of human rights. Our distinguished witnesses who are joining us here today will provide a detailed account, and I would like to highlight just a few areas of grave concerns. Despite the State Department's decision in 2006 to remove Vietnam from the list of countries of particular concern as designated pursuant to the International Religious Freedom Act, Vietnam in fact continues to be among the worst violators of religious freedom in the world. According to the United States Commission for International Religious Freedom 2011 annual report, quote, "The government of Vietnam continues to control religious communities, severely restricts and penalizes independent religious practice, and brutally represses individuals and groups viewed as challenging its authority." I agree with the Commission's conclusion, where they have asked that Vietnam again be designated as a country of particular concern. The State Department's designation of Vietnam as a Tier 2 watch list country with respect to the minimum standards for the elimination of human trafficking also needs to be critically examined. The Department's 2011 Trafficking in Persons report states not only that Vietnamese women and children are being sexually exploited, but that there are severe labor abuses occurring as well, with the government's complicity. We are particularly privileged to have today Ms. Phong An Vu, and she will testify about the horrific suffering she endured when she was trafficked from Vietnam to Jordan. It is also troubling to hear about the abuse that she and others have had to endure at the Vietnamese government, even after their escape from the traffickers. Ms. Vu, I greatly admire your courage, and the subcommittee is most appreciative of your presence as well as your testimony. I met other courageous individuals during my last trip to Vietnam who were struggling for fundamental human rights in their country. Unfortunately, many of them continue to be persecuted by the government. Father Lee is in prison and is suffering from very poor health, and attorney Nguyen Van Dai remains under house arrest. H.R. 1410, the Vietnam Human Rights Act, which I introduced last year and which passed the House on 2 occasions, most recently in 2007, would provide significant motivation to the government of Vietnam to respect its international human rights obligations. It would prohibit any annual increase in the amount of non-humanitarian assistance that the United States provides to Vietnam unless there is an equal or greater increase in the amount of assistance for human rights and democracy promotion and programming in Vietnam. An increase in non-humanitarian assistance would also be prohibited unless Vietnam satisfies certain requirements, including substantial progress towards respect for the freedom of religion and freedom of expression and assembly, respect for ethnic and minority rights, and allowing Vietnamese nationals free and open access to the United States refugee programs. The government would also have to end its complicity in severe forms of human trafficking. Again, I want to thank our distinguished witnesses for being here, and I look forward to their testimony, and I'd like to yield to my friend and colleague, Ranking Member Don Payne.